Woo. All right, everyone. Hey, thank you for joining us for Working on the Night Moon, our weekly review of Disney's Moon Knight series. This is a part of our catalog of.
Fine. I'll watch it.
I'll watch it?
I'll watch it.
Okay. I don't know what the name of these fucking shows are. Anyways.
Try to brand ourselves out.
Yeah, we're working on it. You know what I mean? We're slow. We're older folks over here. You know what I mean? We don't know how this works. Just talking to this box. You guys listen, maybe. But we're gonna be talking about the second episode of Moon Knight, the Disney Plus series, which this episode is called
Summon the Suit.
Summon the Suit. Before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe to Canoodle Studios on all your favorite social media platforms.
In case you didn't know, he's Smokin' Phat J.
I'm Smokin' Phat J. Yeah, we're supposed to say that part too.
Matt Christy here.
Yeah.
Well, it's because we're not missing the third person who's normally in between us.
That's right.
Mr. James Kopp.
Mr. James Kopp.
Who's
might be joining us.
Fancy for us.
Somehow.
Being in New Orleans. Nolans.
Is that where he's at?
That's where he's at, Nolans.
Okay. All right, very cool. Very cool. We'll have fun over there. See, he's going in there. He's looking at spooky stuff. You know what I mean? He's doing research for the show.
But he did give us a rating, which we'll reveal at the end of the show.
He did.
So,
He did. We'll hold that till the end. Matt, what happens in this episode? Take us through it.
All right. Well, this episode starts off with a recap, as most Marvel properties do. But the nice thing about this recap is it continues the audio directly into the start of the episode.
Right.
Where our friend Stephen Grant wakes up suddenly from that nightmare that he thinks he had and jumps out of his bed and has the most gruesome faceplant that we see, because we didn't see him fall out of the castle in episode 1.
Yet. We'll probably see that at some point.
Possibly. But yeah, just right down on the hardwood floor of his flat there. And then he meanders over to the back to the museum, because he knows that he did come from there. He knows it was something that really happened, and talks to the security guard and has him run the footage back. And he sees now that he is the only one on the footage.
Right.
He's running from nothing as far as the image is concerned. But it was pointed out that I saw online that if you go back and look closely, there is a echo of the image for of the jackal. So,
but they're trying to kind of, they're trying to play this where he's just kind of a crazy man. All this shit's in his head.
Well, it also plays into the end of the episode, which they don't explain why he can see it,
right, and
other people can't. But that's essentially what happened.
Right.
So he goes off into the restroom area, does this thing, turns in Mark Spector, gives control over to Mark Spector, turns into Moon Knight, beats the shit out of the jackal, and then comes out. And on camera is the Mark Spector persona, which he says, that's not me.
That's not me, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then we cut over to him in the HR, meet with the head of HR for the museum. And you have this wonderful shot or setup of this clean glass desk for the HR person.
Right.
Where he's sitting there with his hands down on his knees for most of the shot and his face reflecting off. And it just looks like he's both above and below the reflection the entire time as himself.
I mean, they do that a ton. Both of these episodes, they're playing the reflections are a large part of the visual. The way that they visually are showing you this broken psyche.
Yeah. They sent some techies out, some grips out to go find whatever reflective surfaces they could and brought them back and just showed them all off. And
you need lots of mirrors.
Lots of mirrors.
Get them out.
Get it reflect. Get it out of here. We need it. And then at the end of that scene, as he gets let go, he pulls out the keys. He pulls out the phone and the key, which is right after revealed to be a storage locker key.
Right.
Which I guess if you live in London, you knew that was a storage locker. So congratulations to all you Londoners.
Apparently there was 4 different facilities that he went to in that, trying to find it too. So yeah, it must be.
But the lead-in thing that they have, the hint about what else is going on is, or what's going to happen by the end of the episode, is that he gives up his name badge, as being property of the museum. So he basically gives up his name, Stephen, back to the museum, which leads heavily into the end of the episode when it becomes Mark Spector who now has control.
Well, there's some theories about that, though. There are some theories about whether that is Mark Spector at the end, because we know from the comic books that there are more than just these two.
Right.
And there's some people allude that this might even be one of the third personas we haven't even been introduced to yet.
I have a feeling this series is going to leave out the third one. I just have that feeling.
That they're going to stick to the two?
They're just going to stick to the two because from a narrative standpoint, it's easier. Especially by this point, if you introduce a third persona, it's going to be very difficult to
I
keep
agree.
with the story with
I
that.
agree.
So,
But they could also tease those things too.
Well-
It could be something that they don't reveal until the end, and that's hey, guess what? Season 2, we got another guy. We got this cabbie. You know what I mean?
well, that goes into the scene being following this though is that he goes back to the statue man, the gold statue man,
Right.
which is an homage to a character from the Moon Knight series. I forget the character's name.
Harland or something like that. Yeah.
Again, I haven't personally read the series, so I don't know specifically what he was, but he is basically an informant for one of the personas and was one that is associated with the cabbie persona.
Right. Jake something. I can't remember his name.
So I think that's the tie-in they're going to have for the third persona without actually having the third persona.
Mm-hmm.
But yep, he says goodbye to his statue man friend who, once he gives him a hug, actually shifts his eyes over
actually
to him.
looks over at him.
So it's like, oh God, you're touching me now. Then he goes off to the storage locker. Rambles on about trying to get the guy, and the guy working the desk there say, "Hey, I never forget a face.
Mm-hmm.
Your storage locker number 43. Let me take you over there." Takes him over there. Weird thing that the security guy unlocks it for him for some reason.
Yeah, I thought that was like, did you hand him the key?
Yeah.
There is a cool little Easter egg, though, in that scene. There's a QR code on that locker that if you pause and you get that QR code, it takes you to
digital copy
a free digital copy of Werewolf by Night 37, which is the first appearance.
32 was the first one. 37 is the one that they gave away for this one.
Was it 37? It wasn't 30?
32 was the first one. 37 was the digital one that they were giving away. Why? I don't know. Because the first episode did 32.
Okay,
The first episode did 32. The second episode did 37. So that there. If you want random digital comics for about Moon Knight, just to get an idea of the character and everything like that, just start scanning the QR codes. They're going to show up obviously every single episode.
Every episode they're going to
one way or another.
Probably give you one.
Yeah. So then he goes inside the storage locker. And now we meet up with, first off, he looks through the room and sees there's a cot laid out, there's a couple changes of clothes, and there's a duffel bag off to one side. Goes, looks through the duffel bag, finds a gun, finds some money, and finds a passport for an American named Mark Spector.
Yep.
So now he knows the full name of this other person that he thinks is in his head because he's still not completely sure what's going on.
As well as the Golden Snitch.
As well as the Golden Snitch, yes. the MacGuffin of this series, the Scarab Beetle that was introduced in the first episode.
Which I like that we actually find out its purpose in this. Right. That was one of the things that I really liked about, people can complain about that first episode being hey, we're only going to give you a little bit of what's going on. But they forwarded the storyline that they laid out in that first episode quickly. The thing they didn't really lay out for you completely is, again, who's in control, who's the original personality within what we see as this triad right now.
I like it though. I like that.
I do like that.
Even though Mark Spector in the comics is the main persona, this series right now isn't saying who was first or if there was a main persona at any point in time.
And we know Marvel is not afraid if the story is better served by changing something that was in the comics. They're more than willing to do that. So
I mean, it gets to the point where it explains in this episode Mark Spector's actual origin for becoming Moon Knight, that he was killed and he was resurrected by Khonshu, and he took on the power of Khonshu at that point, but whether or not Stephen Grant existed, because that doubt was put into his head a little bit later by Arthur Harlow,
Right.
At the same time or even before Mark Spector existed, it's not made clear, which is fine with me.
Right. I also like. Well, let's go on because
Okay.
there's some other really cool things that I like on this.
So if I Scarab, and then Mark, in a reflection on the wall there, he reintroduces himself. Gives a little more information to him, tells him that
big exposition dump right here for Mark Spector.
Yeah.
Which I also liked because that's something that's very frustrating in a lot of shows is like they always are starting to say something and they don't fucking say it, and it's like and then you cut to like a car ride where they've been in the car for 30 minutes and they never still said the thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're gonna just be like, hey, this is the shit. This is what I'm gonna give you, you know what I mean, right now. Obviously, people are gonna maybe lie and have ulterior motives to do those things, but when it's something that's like me as a person who wants to, forward whatever storyline I'm having to not say things is very frustrating in most shows. And I liked that he just said, hey, this is what we are. This is what's fucking cracking. You know what I mean?
But at the same time, it still keeps the mystery of how they are
Right.
two people. Mm-hmm. I mean, dissociative identity disorder obviously is what he's suffering from, but how they actually are two people, whether it was something that was developed or whether it was something that has been from birth or whenever it actually existed for him.
Or I'll even put a third option that it was something that he forced into existence because once we get to the wife portion of it, like that starts making a lot of sense.
Yeah, and whether Contra had anything to do with it as well. So he gives little information that he Mark Spector is the avatar for Khonshu,
Right.
which was kind of obvious when they started talking about avatars in the first episode. Now it's here laid out and told to Stephen Grant that that's what he is, and that Stephen Grant, because he exists as a part of the overall, is part of Khonshu as well, even if he himself isn't the one in control of Khonshu. And he also told him that he made a deal with Khonshu that Stephen would be kept away so Mark could handle whatever it is he needed to handle. At this point, he doesn't reveal what it is he's specifically supposed to do, other than that he is fighting for justice on behalf of Khonshu. But no real explanation at that point for what it is, which is fine because later in the episode, it creates a moral dilemma by Arthur Harlow as to whether or not Khonshu is good or evil or somewhere in between and just kind of a chaotic character.
Which in the comic books, that's exactly what he is.
Yes. So the Egyptian gods are just, I mean, if you know the Greek gods, you know the Roman gods. The Egyptian gods are a lot more bloodthirsty and chaotic than
all gods. Gods are.
They are, but Egyptians revered and feared their gods more than the Greeks and Romans did. The Greeks and Romans just revered their gods and prayed to them. Fucking Egyptians knew that they were going to be judged when they died by these gods. They knew that these certain gods were going to punish them in certain ways, but
and we'll get to that because they go more into that. That was another thing that I really liked, that the antagonists' reasoning, if not maybe their slant, you know what I mean, in the scheme of things, but their reasoning and the reason why these people are so fanatic, like those sort of things were revealed, which was very refreshing to not have to wait a long time for that.
I just glanced over the comments and it says Kopp keeps getting bigger and bigger as I realized, oh shit, he is.
Oh, hey, there he is.
Jesse, what are you doing?
Right there.
What are you doing to him?
Good job.
Anyway,
Good job.
So Spectre tells him to lay on the bed, go to sleep. He'll take over. He just rest himself and take it easy. And Steven's like, no.
No, that's not happening.
In fact, I'm never going to sleep again. You, and as much as Dizzy can go say, and then fuck you, he says this fuck you to him, and says, I'm going to do instead of all that stuff, I'm going to take this bag of stuff and turn myself into the cops and
So
have
that I
them
can
put
do
me
other
away
stuff,
in
right.
some sort of asylum and hopefully drug me so I never have to think about you again.
Which honestly, like, that is a reasonable person's reaction to all this shit in our world. Though, in the this is one, if I have one thing to say, this is something in the Marvel world where it's like, you've seen this shit a lot. If you, like, half the universe was blipped away at some time period within this guy's life.
So
It's not as far-fetched in this, even though I appreciate the very real world reaction.
So, a couple interesting things there. The passport proves that his character was not blipped. Because the date on the passport is after the blip occurs.
Okay.
Or is after everybody is snapped away. That if you pause and look at the screen, it happens later it happens into 2018, but later in the year 2018 than when Thanos snapped his fingers.
Also, like, his birth date, I think, is that Werewolf by Night.
Yeah. There's like 3 Werewolf by Night
Yeah.
references in this movie for that comic, so.
Which I think they're doing a series of that, so it's probably...
A Halloween special, yeah.
Is it a Halloween special?
Halloween special.
Yeah, so...
Branding. So, but the other thing, though, is that with Moon Knight, it's a type of power that people still, they've seen this stuff, but people still aren't fully familiar with. And this is something new to them because this is the first that anybody outside of Westview technically has seen that has worn a cape, like a true caped hero.
Thor was caped
Until he wasn't.
And Vision has a cape.
But people didn't know Vision.
Didn't they, though?
No.
The whole Sokovia Accords happened, so they had to have seen him.
No. Vision was kept back at the compound.
Was he?
And Scarlet Witch wasn't wearing the cape outfit at that point in time.
No, Vision was on Sokovia when Sokovia shit happened.
Vision was on there, but he appeared as an Ultron.
I mean,
bot.
yeah, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
Hooded,
Like,
caped, first
you're right. Like, a lot of people might see this and realize that it's a real thing, but still, that it's not common enough yet. Like, if it ever gets to the comic books, it will be totally far-fetched. But you're right, it is still limited to only a certain amount of people that are, at least in the public eye so much.
Well, even in the end of the episode, the fight that the 2 people are making fun of. Well, we'll get to that when we get to that. But that,
true.
It's a guy dressed up, but to them, they don't know what's going on. They don't think it's anything else than just some guy dressed up. Anyway, so he takes the bag, leaves the storage container, and then if you've seen Morbius, I'm sorry, you've seen Morbius first off, you get a much better scene than this exact same scene that was in Morbius of the hallway lights.
Mm-hmm.
With the hallway lights actually making more sense than they did in Morbius, because it annoyed me in Morbius when the light turned off while you're walking from one light to another. Like, why the fuck would you design it that way?
Yeah.
This made more sense. But what they did with this was a lot better.
Yeah. I thought it was, this was an amazing scene. And, going back to, if you're watching this show, watch the Getting Nerdy show, which was right before this. Mm-hmm. We talked about Morbius. I didn't dislike the CGI money on that, but this was better. Yeah. This is a television show.
Yes.
And Khonshu looks amazing. That guy that does Khonshu's voice, which is
F. Murray Abraham.
F. Murray Abraham, great. You know what I mean? Again, like, they do so well at doing these horror moments that they couldn't do in Morbius, where it was like they were still trying to keep it PG-13. All they did was black out the violence. Yeah. This has done kind of horrifying things without having to do
Well, this
that.
Moon Knight is pure psychological horror with that one hallway scene jump scare.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't even so much designed so much as a jump scare as it is to get.
It's a jump scare for the character,
yeah, not for
more than for you.
Yeah, exactly.
But you still feel it for them because, and you have to give it to fucking Oscar Isaac because, like, I just have to say, like, you know, that guy, he's played some shit roles, but he's amazing in this. Like, he really makes you believe that you're different characters. Like, it's very, he's doing a fantastic job.
And all conversations with himself. However they ended up filming it, whether they filmed everything Mark Spector at one time, and then everything as Stephen Grant at a different time, I don't know, or if they're doing playback between the two. Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, his characterizations of everything he does in the series, the two characters he plays in the series, are so vastly different and so good. And his Stephen Grant character is just wonderful, both in terms of the mannerisms, his speech patterns, and just everything.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like, late as gators, like that. That might be my weird thing I start saying for a long time.
Which I read.
20 years from now, people are going to be like, why the fuck do you say that? And I'm going to be like, remember that Moon Knight show?
which I read.
22?
I read an article from somebody who's a native Londoner speak. That's not a phrase.
I'm sure it's not.
It's just, I'm pretty sure it's an Oscar Isaac thing that he said one day on set.
Is Oscar Isaac American? Or is he?
I think he's Scottish.
Scottish?
Part Scottish, because he shows up at a couple premieres in kilts.
Can you look up two things for me, Jesse? Yeah. Can you look up Oscar Isaac's nationality, and I want to know his date of birth too, because they say he was born in what, 83 or 87?
I thought it was 78.
No, I think it was 87 on that. On
the passport.
On the passport, I think.
Oh, it was Guatemalan. Oh wow.
Guatemalan. Okay.
Cuban father. All right.
And when's his birth date? That's what I'd like to know. Because all I'm saying is they on that passport they 79. Say 87. Okay, good.
Well, no,
okay.
Yeah,
that makes me feel way better.
Yeah.
He's only a year younger than me.
No, I
feel, or older than me, younger than me.
I don't know whether that was a reference to, but that was a reference, a comic reference again.
I know it was. That was the Werewolf by Night comic, but I still thought that character in that, like, didn't feel like he was 10 years younger than me. It was a personal thing that I was feeling really bad about, that I needed to confirm that this motherfucker wasn't that much younger than me.
His craziness is...
He can look that much better than me, yeah. And we'll talk about that when we get to the final scene of this, because good Lord, I almost fucking switched sides into this fucking show. He's a really handsome man.
Go see Ex Machina.
I've seen Ex Machina.
No, I'm saying just ever see Ex Machina, Jared's duplicate
I've
in that series. And then the only weird thing too, it was weird to me. Some people liked it. I don't know if I've heard anybody say anything truly negative about it, but that freeze frame was just weird to me. The scream was wonderful. Right at the end of that scene in the hallways, they'll do that light flash behind him and then just do a freeze frame.
Yeah. Before
cutting to him running outside the building. It
was. I enjoyed it. I enjoy those little, like they do. Whoever does these, who directed this? Are they anybody? Who directed the Moon Knight? I think it was one person who did the whole thing.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
and I don't know him at all from anything. So.
Well, Jesse's on it. We got a Jesse.
We'll wait for him to.
Jesse's our Friday, our Jarvis, if we're gonna be saying.
All in one. Doug.
No, that was the creator. That's cast. What are we looking for? All cast and crew, right there.
There we go. Everybody, look at this. Look on the screen. Mohammed Diab.
Mohammed Diab.
Yep.
And it looks like if there was a few of them. Okay. I don't know what else did he do? Nothing else.
He's Egyptian. He's an Egyptian, actual Egyptian. So he's done, I think, a couple projects in Egypt. So.
Okay. All right. Well, and look, we'll get to that by the end of the show. Okay, so At this point, he meets up with.
He's now escaped. Goes around out into the street, and the whole trope of hey, the other character meets up with you magically in the street. Whatever. I'm fine with it, but it's a trope. Meets up with Layla. Layla comes right in her Vespa, almost hits him as he falls down onto the street.
But she does have explanation for that. She pinged his phone.
Right.
Because he turned the phone back
in terms of how she was looking for him, yeah. But still, it's just the coincidence of that point in time, running into each other out in the middle of the street.
Well, it's the same thing about, we talked about earlier about not saying something and then being a 30 minute to 2 hour car ride.
And that conversation, he just continued while you were driving for 30 hours. However long you were driving.
We were 2.5 hours ago. We were talking about this. Okay. Let's continue that conversation.
She says the name Mark because she obviously recognized him by his face. And that's the only reason Steven has any inkling of who she might be because of her talking on the phone. Because he does say the name Layla, which wouldn't make any sense if not for that conversation in the first episode. But still is a little awkward that he would guess that, but whatever.
I don't know, because I think that he's he's trying to figure out all these things. He saw that there were 30 missed calls from a Layla person. He also heard that voice. I think that if I heard you on the phone, even be it on a Razor phone from 30 years ago or whatever that came out, like I would probably be like, oh, hey.
That had been turned off for multiple months as they established. So.
And you still have that fucking weird fucking charger for it? Like, yeah, whatever, bro.
So then they go on an expositional bike ride of her. It's what it was, but whatever. It's an expositional bike ride where he finds out that she's his wife, being the biggest point. That she has been looking for him for years, for many months. Figuring that he had just left her to possibly protect her, possibly to get away from her.
I don't think she knew. I think I just think that she was pissed because he ran off.
He just ghosted her, and
she doesn't understand.
No, and now there's this person who looks like her husband, and she thinks is trying to fake her out with his fake persona. Then Stephen Grant, and the next couple scenes play that she still thinks that it's Mark Spector just taking on this character for some reason that she doesn't understand.
Right.
But regardless, they go back to his flat, and this cool thing where now the Mark Spector persona appears not so much as a reflection anymore, but now appears in any reflective surface.
I think that the interaction also with his wife leads more towards that maybe Mark Spector created this persona. And maybe there's not other personas, or if they are, it's less like I had this, then I created this. Because she married him, and she's not like, oh, Mark, you get this way. Like you would know that. You know what I mean?
Well, there's a couple different things on this, and we can talk to it more about the end, because there's different points of evidence that could suggest one or the other way of how this is.
True.
But yeah, for this scene, you got a lot of beats where Stephen is speaking to her in French about a poem and a poet that is her favorite, who he says is his favorite.
Right. Yeah.
You have the Egyptian history stuff that he's relating to.
Like, I feel like Mark Spector was more like, hey, like they probably met. She was the archaeologist. He was the muscle that was keeping, them safe. And that they fell in love, and then they got married and all that shit is what it felt like. And so he created, again, this persona to be a person that's all into these things that the woman he loves was into, and he's trying to keep her safe.
Right.
Or he's trying to even, replace her in a way, because she was probably the person that he needed this information to get out of this bargain. Because I felt like when we get to the end, like he's trying to figure out a way to get out of all this. I don't know.
So we can talk about more at the end, because I have some things to say about it in terms of the other way around too. But
And then we're gonna fist fight about it.
Yes, right here, live on.
Right here.
Working on the Moon Knight. For the Night Moon.
Whoever wins, that's what happens.
That's canon.
Disney, if
It's
you
canon now.
didn't shoot it, you better shoot it.
Anyway, so he starts telling her that there's a dangerous object and starts going through his bag for it, and Mark Spector gets to him and says, "Don't show her. You'll get her killed if you show her."
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Steven's like, "Oh, I better back off on this." But he says he's already gone so far. She still takes the initiative and goes right into the bag and finds the scarab, which she reveals is an item that the two of them found together at an archaeological dig. And she now has the impression that that's why he left her, is because he wanted it for himself.
Right. So she's kind of feeling like, oh, this motherfucker played me.
Which is interesting because still later in the episode, she says she's seen him put the suit on, referring to the Moon Knight suit.
Right.
But at the same time, doesn't seem to know why he has that power and why he would want to not have that around her.
Right. Okay, but then that leads again into the same thing we talked about earlier, where she's just like, oh, this guy's a superhero. You know what I mean? So it kind of makes sense in this Marvel universe where it's like, oh, yeah. Oh, you're one of those motherfuckers I saw on the news.
It depends.
I don't understand why, because you didn't share it with me. And, you know, but those are weird things where it's like, if we knew their relationship more, it might make sense.
Right. Well, the other
But
thing,
we probably will never know.
the big point in this that's missing is the timeline for when they met each other, when the incident with the archaeological dig happened, and when he got his powers. Because if you're going by comics, for the few things I've gone back on, part of the origin story is that he died trying to save her father at the archaeological dig.
Right, who he didn't save.
Yeah, which may or may not be what they're referring to here.
And they also say something in this episode, and I'm not sure where, something about him being responsible for a death in that is...
He executed... It's shortly later when he's on the car ride. So,
all right.
Yeah, he executed one of the people at this archaeological dig, which is why he's a fugitive.
With Fitzgerald and Kennedy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally real names of those two cops. Not.
Yeah. Come on, John.
The other thing we get this briefly in this is that Layla is apparently requested Mark requested for a divorce, but never signed the papers. And
is that what it was? I thought she just was fed up.
Mark requested it, but never ended up signing the papers before he disappeared on her. So she still has feelings for him, obviously, but she just assumed that he was done, and that's why he left, but she just wanted the closure on it, so that's why she went to go find him.
Now she's dating Blade, so...
So after that, then we have our two cops show up, Kennedy and Fitzgerald. Totally real, non-American reference to John Fitzgerald Kennedy names.
Right.
Which is more likely them trying to, again, suss out whether this person known as Stephen Grant really is who he says he is, or if he's just acting undercover for Mark Spector, being an American. But... they go through his room. They find the scarab. They don't find the scarab. Excuse me, because Layla took it.
I thought he had it in his pocket.
No, that's later. She gives it over to him. Layla took it out of the bag. She kept it. She jumped out. She went out the window to hide away from them. But they still took him in because they knew he did have the scarab, and because they found the passports. As that was their justification as cops, which pretty sure they were real cops, just obviously working for Arthur Harlow. And they take him away.
They take him away.
Yep.
So. Take him away, and then we go to the next scene, and this is I really, again, I liked this scene because it gave you a reasoning why, like, this Arthur Harrow, right? Is that what it is?
Arthur Harrow.
Is like creating this kind of cult, like getting people, like, you know, I mean, we see this, like, what was the Nexium. Like, there's people that really fucking do this shit. And so it creates an interesting thing. This whole series creates an interesting thing within the current Marvel universe. Something that's in between what the Netflix universe was and what the Marvel universe is. Okay, every person we've seen in a movie so far, except for the new ones like Shang-Chi, I guess really is the only new one. Okay, except for
Eternals. And the Eternals.
And the Eternals, okay. Except those two, we haven't seen. Well, no, the Eternals has a world like where the world is going to know what the fuck happened. Shang-Chi does not have that. It could be everything that happens within that universe could be mostly contained. Okay, the Eternals could not. But what I'm saying is that this has a very street level Marvel comic feeling that the Netflix series had, where it's like Arthur Harrow has a bunch of these people, but it's still, he's not ending the world. He's taking over these small parts of these things. And he's trying to get his God to come back, which could be world ending, but this whole series could never affect any other humans than the few that we're talking about. And maybe a few outside of that.
Unless Arthur wins.
Unless he wins.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, well, look, the next fucking phase is not about fucking Amit. You know what I mean? Like, that's not happening.
I know.
You know, I do think there's an interesting take on a continuance of these gods of man not only being really aliens of some sort, which Eternals and Thor have already introduced, but also the colors, which we get to a little bit later, and how Arthur, the purple, and how a lot of these gods' powers come from different of those Infinity Stones, which gives you a big callback to the first phase, which doesn't necessarily have to be about Infinity Stones again, you know?
So the one interesting thing about the series is that they have not revealed yet where it falls in the timeline.
No. Yes.
It obviously falls after the snap happens. Whether it falls after everybody returned. No, it is. Sorry. It is after everybody returned.
Sure.
No, there is something in the episode that proves it.
Okay.
The GRC logo on the side of the double decker.
Yes.
Yep. That proves that it was after the snap.
GRC calls back to Falcon Winter Soldier.
Yep.
So that's the
Global Repatriate.
Yeah, that's the people who the rebels are fighting against.
Yeah. So it does take place after the snap, but when compared to some other things, not exactly sure. Just definitely after the blip, after everybody returns. So, but yeah, on the car ride to where Arthur Harrow is set up, you get the exposition about Mark Spector's history, that he's an assassin, that he's wanted for killing 4 people at an archaeological dig, including shooting one of them in the back of the head, which is all true information, but also played to scare Steven. Because as we find out when they get there, the 2 cops have the tattoos.
Before that, he sees they see the tattoos.
Yeah, they have the tattoos.
Which is great, you know what I mean? Like, I know that that's kind of a simple little thing, but like that is a good little like recurring reveal. Like they played it a lot in the first 2 episodes. I don't think that you can get much more traction out of that.
We're not getting it.
But these first 2 episodes, them like showing that off, it's great.
Yeah.
Like from now on, if the motherfucker doesn't be like, hey, let me see your fucking forearms before I say a word to you, like it's retarded.
Yeah.
But you know,
I think it's just gonna be obvious that they're the goons for Harlow now going forward, but whatever. But his location, he sees the tattoos, and now he's in the car, and now you get, because the scene, you get the second scene, more intense than what you saw in the storage locker, of him and Mark Spector fighting each other
for control.
Right. And showing that there is this big division between the two.
Right.
Whatever they are, whether they know they're the same person, whether they're just somehow inhabiting the same body for whatever reason,
Yeah.
there is this big division between the two. And
You've at this point been introduced that Mark Spector has the potential to go way too far.
yeah,
Okay? But now you're getting Steven is so very naive. You know, and again, you're trying to come to some middle ground of what it is, but it's also an interesting sidebar as to who is still in the end. It's like they're not both people. Who is the main persona in the end?
then Arthur lets him out of the vehicle because he realized it was a test to see whether or not Mark was showing up. When he realized that Mark was not showing up, he's like, cool, I can talk to you because you yourself are probably not going to really try to kill me. And then you get the first hint reveal that Arthur knows about more about Khonshu than he probably should.
Well, he knows.
He doesn't say that till later, but the first line he says in there is that I can't see him anymore.
Right.
But you can. He wants you to kill me, doesn't he?
Yep. Yeah, he literally starts parroting almost every line that Khonshu is saying to Steven at this point. Great scene. This whole scene is great to the point to where he's like, hey, I'm vegan too. Like all of it, like it's very cult leader. Okay, like I think that we're given the first clue in the last episode that I don't know if we talked about, but that you're taking an old lady. Like, I don't think that it's as pure, like this, like his ideal might be we are trying to get rid of the problem before the problem occurs. Yeah. Okay, there's a term that this is. It's something that was in Minority Report. Okay, but interestingly enough, in the Marvel universe, this was Civil War Part 2's whole storyline between Captain Marvel and Iron Man. Right? Iron Man plays the opposite side of what he was in the first Civil War.
In Winter Soldier, Captain America has the line, anybody who's tried to stop a war before it started has caused more problems than the war itself.
Right.
So that's this philosophy being laid out in front of you now. Now with the sympathetic eye towards the other side. Winter Soldier made it completely obvious, especially once the shield reveal or once the Hydra reveal dropped, that that was just a pure extermination plan against particular people.
Right.
This isn't against anybody in particular. This is against anybody deemed to be evil, which, when we get to the conversation between the two of them, after Harlow reveals that he was the former avatar for Khonshu. Didn't say why he fell out of favor, why he wasn't it anymore, but did reveal that that's who he was, and reveals that he's now the current avatar for Amit. They get into this conversation about the morality of that decision, which was
because he's like, you're willing to kill children. You know what I mean? Like it's that whole thing of, you have to take any ideal from its most neutral to its worst. And its worst ideal is you're taking at a certain point, you're taking a newborn baby and you're saying this creature could be, the next Hitler.
In the future, this person, this newborn is going to do this thing.
Them. Yeah. You could take, again, you're taking it to both extremes, and you have to talk about that.
Even if you are using the power of a god to determine that, it's still a matter of morality of, is that the right thing to do? Should you really be killing children instead of possibly teaching them that, hey, maybe
knowing
can
this,
something.
do you now have the opportunity to change this?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, I don't know if they're doing this, but to me, it is such a potential moment of brilliance when you're talking about a multiverse in so many of your things that are going on to now does knowing, it's these, it's an example of these ever-present existential questions of knowing something, like if time travel happened and just coming back and then knowing something different, does that now change it? Does it split into multiple universes? These are all the toys they're playing with right now in their next phase, and it really makes me go God damn, Kevin Feige, you might be a genius on a whole other fucking level.
Because
if this is on purpose.
Oh, it's on purpose, but depending how this series ends, because critics have only been given the first 4 episodes, so the last 2 episodes are going to be something that they don't want anybody to see until it happens.
And it's been real good about the critics.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a lot of fucking leaks about this.
No.
At all.
No. But yeah, no, it's the universe that they have established now has basically said that all possibilities, what time travel is, what morality is, what the gods are both true and not true at the same time, depending on where you are, which universe you're in, how it works there. Because
I think the landing on that is a long-term landing that I will be curious to see how they do that. Okay? But I think in our Marvel proper universe that we've lived in for most of these movies, I think that they are really trying to portray that gods are just aliens.
We'll see.
And I think they're powerful in ways that humans don't imagine in a lot of ways, but not so powerful that they have an influence over the whole population that we have now. And I think that's very interesting.
Because they're left they're left as gods. It's American gods.
Right.
Gods are real.
Right.
But gods are real as much as people believe
Only
in them.
as much people believe in them.
So.
But I think that gods are real regardless in this universe. But if all of a sudden people don't believe in them, they just bounce to someplace else. They're not less powerful. I don't think that their power necessarily, their power over people depends upon people's blind faith, as every religion does in reality. But I think that it doesn't, in this universe, it doesn't necessarily affect how much power they have based on whatever their magic Marvel fucking formula is, which is what we have,
Well, it's what the point they make with, or it's the point that Arthur makes with Khonshu, is that
he can only make the wind blow.
He can't see it. Yeah, the all power he has is to move things, a la Ghost.
He can't do anything without you, which he specifically is without you making a choice.
Yeah. If you bring him out, then he has power because he's in you.
Which again goes back to, this is a better Venom idea than the movies Venom and Venom 2. Because he's creating a situation where if Khonshu wants to be more powerful, he needs Mark Spector or Steven or whatever the fucking thing is. But but they both need each other in the end. You get to have this relationship that was kind of a Hulk thing, really, in the beginning, but they're doing it better in Moon Knight right now.
Yeah, that's because Marvel still doesn't own Hulk exclusively. So, They can only do so
They
much.
gotta
for that
pay
character.
Universal X amount of dollars that they will at some point.
So now we've had the conversation. We go into him wanting to know where the scarab is, and then Layla shows up out of nowhere and says, "I got it right here." And they start booking. But fun thing before that, I forgot, is that when Arthur starts getting impatient, when the staff starts glowing, everybody in the room starts backing away.
Yep.
Because they know that power is real and they are afraid of it. Not so much afraid of him, they're afraid of the power that's going to come from that staff.
You want to know what the whole culty thing kind of reminds me of? John Carpenter movie, I believe, with Scott Bakula. Can you tell me? What is it? Or is it Wes Craven? It's one of those two. I think it's John Carpenter, though. If someone can tell us. But it's the one where there's the cult, and he's got the fucking thing coming out of his fucking, I can't remember what it was. But it had that moment of it where it was like, this whole cult of people were the only people that could see this, except for this one guy who had like weird psychic powers. God damn it. Can you look up a list of John Carpenter movies for me, Jesse? It's going to really frustrate me. Anyways, we'll move on. We'll move on from here.
Layla and Steven start running away, and they don't get much resistance. And you find out why, because Arthur is now placed the staff on the ground and is doing a little chant, and he's opening a portal with...
He is playing League of Legends, and he has summoned a dog, demon dog.
a jackal.
Okay, you keep talking. I'm gonna look at
he's summoning a jackal, which we were talking about earlier. This is where the point that the colors of the Infinity Stones and things that we've seen, especially recently in the Marvel Universe, starts to matter. This portal that he's opening is purple in color. While not the same hue, purple is also the color used for No Way Home.
That's right.
As an opening to summon up entities from other dimensions and other universes over.
Hold on. No, you keep talking.
So I'm trying to talk.
Look up Scott Bakula. That'll probably be easier. He's done less things than those two people.
You hope. But now, going to your point of whether they're aliens or not, is this cosmic power that's being used to summon the jackal from wherever it's coming from? I'm just going to wait for you to be done now, because...
Oh my God, no, it's I don't see it. Did I imagine this movie? There's no way I imagined this movie.
Well, you imagine Scott Bakula being in something necessary.
He's in this movie 100%. Give me his filmography. Keep going down. It's probably in the early 90s, late 80s. Go up.
Welcome to our
Prowler.
night.
No. No. Wait.
In the Shadow of Killer?
Dream On, no.
That's a TV movie.
Lord of Illusions. That's
okay.
it. Lord of Illusions.
Click on Lord. Oh, that's
Click on it. You go down.
No, Lord of Illusions is Hellraiser.
There it is. It's at the top. Go up a little bit. There it is.
That's from
Very
the
top.
I can't remember his name now.
95.
Hellraiser director. Clive Barker.
Clive Barker.
Yeah.
Well, fuck me. Anyways,
Okay.
that's what I was talking about
Okay.
35 minutes ago.
All right.
When I
You want to talk about cosmic power now?
I do want to talk about cost because this purple also leads into Agatha.
Mm-hmm.
It leads into, like you said, the Spider-Man whole spell that Doctor Strange cast. It's also one of the Infinity Stones, the purple one, which
Power Stone.
The Power Stone.
Yep. Yep. So I mean, interesting seeing.
I said all those things earlier.
You did, but now we're to the point in the show where it happens.
Oh, thanks, Miranda. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming in clutch. 10
So I'm
minutes
interested to see
later.
going forward whether this really relates to all that type of power and magic that has been shown off so far in the MCU, and if that's the connection they have to the rest of the series and movies. But anyway, the Jackal is summoned. Steven and Layla go into this storage room that they have up in a higher floor. Lock themselves in. Layla is just on him now to bring out, or they use the line for the title of the movie, summon the suit.
Right.
Just on him to do it, and keeps calling him Mark, and Steven just breaks down and goes into the fetal position and is like, I can't. That's
Right.
not me. I can't do it. And Layla then realizes at that point in time that no, this person really is Stephen Grant. However that happened, and she calls him Stephen, and it snaps him out of it enough to get himself up on his feet again.
Yep. And then we got Mr. Knight.
And then we got Mr. Knight. But right before that, the most interesting thing that happens is that the Jackal busts into the room, but Layla
she
can't
does
see
not
it.
see it. Right.
For whatever reason, Layla cannot see the Jackal. All she sees is that Steven goes backwards through the window and falls out the top for some, she doesn't know why. But as he's falling down, both Khonshu and Mark get on him and say, summon the suit. And as he hits a pole, next shot cuts to superhero landing. That's right, it is Mr. Knight, the detective persona of Moon Knight, for a series run in a slick three-piece suit.
You
custom
said
mask.
you knew this was going to show up. I had no clue that this was going to show up. But I think both of us did not expect it to look this good.
No.
It looked good. Real fucking good. It was it may have been a little white Deadpool suit-esque, but I mean...
But that's what the suit was. I mean, I've seen the comic images. That's what the suit is, so whatever.
Yep. You take the Deadpool suit, you cut off this, and you put a white suit over it.
But a detail of the outfit, though, which kind of goes to the theory that we're talking about, there may only be two personas in this series, is the splits in the mask.
Right.
In the actual comic, that doesn't exist.
Right.
It's there in this to show the split personalities that he has in him.
Right. But I think that it's also represented in the other suit as well, with it being a quarter moon, like, because the way that he grabs those later, like he grabs and he transfers and he grabs.
No, that's not what he does. It's not what he does. We show the clip.
We're going to fight about it later.
We will.
Fight about it.
Let's fight. I'll tell you what happens in that because I watched it again and.
All right.
It's a power of the suit, actually. So he's now in his dapper thing. The Mark image is now not at all reflective of the Steven image anymore. They are separate beings. Somehow Mark is in the suit as well, which I thought was interesting that Mark...
I thought he was just a voice in his head.
Nope, because the image doesn't match the motions that Steven's doing in the suit. They're not seeing.
We're going to fight about it.
We are.
We're going to fight about it.
Mark is in the suit himself at that point, which he's not in the reflection on the bus.
We're really only one person. Right now, one or the other, like whether you see blue and green or whatever those weird dress colors were, you either see me or him, and we're just talking.
So he's looking good in his new outfit and everything like that, and then all of a sudden, the Jackal comes, attacks him. Layla comes down, and you have a fun Fight Club reference fight scene where it's all from what Kayla can see. Layla, excuse me, Layla, that's right. Layla can see because you see Steven getting his ass kicked by nothing.
But it's still apparent that something that they can't see is affecting them. Like, it's not like quite like Fight Club where he's punching himself in the face.
Right. Well, at that point in time, I mean, it's a little bit later when you know the drunk comment, then
true.
But she knows for sure that something is happening, though she's not sure what it is. And she gets the bright idea. She's going to throw some broken bottle of beer at the direction of that.
Right.
And then she sees a little blur outline of something actually there. But now she has an idea. She tries to fight back. It takes on both of them. Steven gets tossed. Mark's on him. He's like, look, you got to give me or you're dead.
Right.
And Steven at that point is like, nope, I'm going to do this. I can take care of it. Gets up and delivers one huge punch at it. After he does a little Muhammad Ali chant right before that.
Yeah.
His whole little made up chant. And then knocks him down. Like, yeah, I won the day. And then he gets his ass immediately kicked back into the street.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he gets the thing where he's standing up now and his rolled up sleeves and everything else like that, trying to fight. And somebody makes a comment, that's just a fancy drunk.
Right.
Fighting himself in the street.
Yeah, because no one else can see.
No one knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So they do think that he is fighting himself.
Right.
Whatever he's doing in that motion. So.
And again, I think there's so many people in this universe who just might think, oh, this is some weird other whatever this shit that we see all the time
other than Spider-Man, because most everybody knows that Tony Stark is Iron Man, even though he wears the face mask, but that's just because it's armor, not so much anything else.
Everyone knows Steve Rogers is Captain America.
Right. But what I'm saying is that other than Spider-Man, because Iron Man doesn't count for those reasons, nobody else wears a mask. So masks as a thing too are not a common thing.
That's true.
So somebody dressed up as this guy, I don't think the first thought in anybody's head is that this is some sort of superhero or anything like that.
But I don't know if they think that it's a superhero, but they think that it is another powered person. And I don't know that they have a big difference. I think that you might think, oh, wow, Thor saved our life. But you, as a normal person, didn't see Thor go through all his depression and getting fat and all this shit. We saw that.
Yeah.
Normal people didn't see that. They saw, hey, there's a YouTube video of this fucking dude that can do lightning shit and throw a hammer.
Well, that was in...
and he saved us from a purple guy that looked like the fucking, Grimace.
No, not even. No, before that. Ragnarok. They have that scene where they're going through New York and the two girls come up to want to have his picture taken.
Oh, yeah.
Because they know him. They know him from New York.
Sure.
The Battle of New York.
But I'm not saying that. Not saying, Matt, Christy, that was the first time they knew about Thor. Saying that those are examples of the Thor stuff.
That's fine.
So I'm saying that just in this universe, these people understand that there's weird shit going on.
They know. They understand there's weird shit going on, but this still to them is just some guy dressed up for some unknown reason fighting apparently himself in the street.
But then we get the legit
transformation. So what he does is he actually takes two separate things that regenerate.
Yes.
It's not from different points.
But he does put one back at one point.
Once he catches it and puts it back.
Very end.
Yeah, at the very end he does. But he takes two separate ones at that point in time. So
yes.
And starts jumping and
but
running.
That's what but I'm not okay, so I wasn't saying that he didn't take two separate ones. Oh. I'm saying that he grabbed it from the one side. He handed
he did two. He did two hands.
Did he?
Yep, he did two hands.
All right, we're gonna fight about it later. Go on.
Layla, now recognizing this outfit, tells him to get away from the area to not allow other people to get harmed. So he takes off. Then you get the parkour shots across the rooftop.
Yep. There's the other part. I think we've gotten everything from the trailers in these two episodes.
Just about. Some of the other fight scenes will happen later with Moon Knight. The only things we haven't gotten yet. But yeah, first two episodes were the trailers. So you got 4 episodes of who knows what's going to happen, which is cool. He does the leap across the rooftops, which he doesn't land as cleanly as you thought he was going to in the actual trailer, but that's fine. Then he runs to the edge of a building near a church, and he does this wonderful move where he pretends like he slipped when he to bait the jackal in, goes off, turns around to catch it in midair, stabs it with one of the moon discs, and then basically like Bane, but not over a knee, over the spike of a spire on a church, puts it right through.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Like that scene was amazing. Like, hey, this was a long episode, too.
A little bit longer than the first episode.
It was at least 15 minutes longer than the first episode, I think.
No, only about 5.
The first episode was 45?
It was 47, and the second episode was 52, 54, something like that.
Well, all right, we're going to fight about it later. But they did very well. Like, the things that we missed from the last episode that we only got teased, like, they were prevalent and satisfying in this episode. And this is one of the examples, like that fight and run through the rooftop. Again, like, go watch Morbius and the difference between this
and them going across the rooftop, so you're not knowing what the hell is going on. This, you know what is going on the entire time.
Really good looking, really a great scene.
And then after the jackal dissolves into sand, you get the recall of the moon disc right back to his hand, back to my shirt. Another interesting thing that happened during that chase scene, they kept enlarging the moon.
Or did they?
Yep.
All right.
To show that its power was growing. But yeah, the moon, every time the moon is shown, it's larger and larger, whether it be just because it's shown in the sky that particular way or the reflection in the Thames. Sure. It just gets larger and larger till.
Which is a callback to. So the thing with Moon Knight is and has been compared to Batman.
Yeah.
This is Marvel's Batman, right? Yeah. And the reason mostly being because he doesn't really have powers most of the time in the comic books. All right? He's being manipulated by this god who no longer has any followers anymore. But the one time when he did have that was when he was bitten by a werewolf. And his powers grew with the phases of the moon, which we're gonna bring back later. Like that's something we're gonna bring back later. So, but I love that. I love that about what Marvel does because they've done that. They've made it not a big deal, but a, little light grazing for the nerds out there, I like it.
So after this, you find out that the scarab has fallen out onto the street. This guy goes to find it. Arthur tracks it down at the same time as well. Says, I'm sorry, I give you whatever you want. I just can't give you that thing. But then they show you that Arthur isn't pure in his intentions because he doesn't judge the guy. He just outright drains his life force.
Right.
For touching the scarab that he just thought was something that found on the ground.
It's just a continuation from that little thing where it's like, I'm going to take an able-bodied soldier over the old lady.
Yeah.
From the first episode.
Then we cut back to now Mark Spector, because as Mark Spector has taken over the persona, no longer in the suit, and you have the third and the best dialogue and the best depiction of a person whose psyche is broken and doesn't know how to allow both to exist at the same time. Conversation between Mark Spector and Stephen Grant, where each of them realizes that the other's not going to let doesn't want the other one to exist.
That is going to be fine.
And it reaches the boiling point where Spector just starts smashing the reflective surface that Stephen appears in. And you also learn during that conversation that the reason Stephen's been around as long as he has, for at least for this series, is that the longer Khonshu is involved, the stronger one gets over the other in terms of control. And that the person who's not in control is basically in an isolation type chamber.
Right. Yeah, because of that whole conversation where it's like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that I'm just observing my body doing these things. You're right. I think that is one of the most interesting things about this whole episode. Like, when you break it down as to, I really love, I don't think you've watched this, but me and Jesse have watched every one of DC's Doom Patrol.
You haven't seen it yet, so.
There's a character called Crazy Jane who plays a lot of this stuff. Like, those are very different than Marvel. Like, when you talk about the DC, like when they did the DC app, like the Titans and the Doom Patrol and the Harley Quinn, like that shit is on a different level than Marvel TV or any Marvel shit is.
Right.
Okay. But it's also very different from any movie shit they've ever done. And they have a character called Crazy Jane that does a lot of this kind of stuff, but I like that they are playing this who's really the main personality, and like who was born Mark Spector.
Yeah.
Okay. And I like also that they are playing with Stephen Grant that who cares? Who cares who was born? If Stephen Grant is the better persona to take over, then who cares who Mark Spector was? Yeah. I think it's very smart.
And then right after that great scene, we have Khonshu appear. Tell Mark Spector, basically this is when Khonshu shows his hand. And it's like, look, we made a deal. You were going to keep this guy out of it. Your deal's broken now. So I'll give you one more chance. But if you screw this up, if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to give this power to your wife.
Right. So I want to talk about this for a second because there's a huge speculation out there right now because Oscar Isaac has specifically came out and said he was only paid to play in this 6-episode series, period. He did not sign like we know in Marvel, everyone signs we're going to be in this many things. He went on record as saying he's only playing in this. I think this might lead to that he completely dies in this universe and she takes over in the end. How do you feel about that, Matt Christy?
It's very possible, but the thing that I've seen those articles too. The problem with the articles that I have is that everybody's been forgetting something that was said last year or put out last year, that Marvel is no longer doing the long-term deals with anybody. Basically, since Phase 3 ended, they're not really doing long-term deals. They're using people as they see fit, as they need for whatever they're doing.
But Jonathan Goff. The guy, Jonathan Majors signed like a 6-picture deal.
That's because
they 6-something deal.
Right, because they knew they needed him. They knew what direction that was. But characters like Shang-Chi...
But they don't need Moon Knight necessarily unless it works out.
The actor for Shang-Chi, they got him for that movie. They're probably going to use him for something else, but they don't know when, so they haven't worked out a deal for whatever other property he's going to be in.
Michael Morbius, they only needed for one movie.
Michael Morbius is not Marvel. Okay. Doesn't matter what Sony tries to tell
you. He's a Marvel legend. He's a Marvel legend, Matt Christy. How dare you? How
that is the oldest
fucking dare you.
Title card.
Move on.
From the Blade days.
For the next part of this.
From the Blade
fucking Moon Knight
Daredevil movie playing.
Blasphemy.
Well, no, the last thing that happens is we transition over to Egypt.
to a very sexy Egypt.
Yes,
A
very.
very, very sexy Egypt.
Yes. Oscar Isaac getting all drunk, sitting on the floor outside of his bed, wearing no shirt.
Kind of looks like my house when Jesse's drinking out of that Jim Beam bottle. You know what I mean? Yeah. Was that what he was drinking, Jim Beam? It looked like a Jack or Jim. It was Jack or Jim. It was one or the other. He was wearing gray sweatpants. Like there's an NC-17 version that has his dick flopping all the way up to that window. 100%. Can't wait.
But other than that,
What's it? New Line Cinema. What's their other? What's Disney?
Oh, they don't
They
don't do anything anymore. Miramax, they own Miramax.
What's
but
Miramax?
But no, they still own Miramax. They just don't do anything under most of those titles or most of them anymore.
I wonder why.
Touchstone.
I wonder why they
Touchstone, Boy in the Picture,
embrace Miramax.
Hollywood Studio, Miramax, Touchstone, Boy in the Pictures, Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios was another one of theirs. The one with Sphinx.
So I heard that specifically with this series, that a lot of people got a thing when they watched the first episode of Moon Knight saying, what did you want your settings on the Disney Plus app to be?
Oh,
I personally didn't get it, but I saw. Did you get it? Okay.
I did not get that myself. So.
All right. So we did get it. Okay. So, they're going to be bringing the Deadpool stuff over. Yeah. I think that this is very interesting, especially attached with their accidental changing of Falcon and the Winter Soldier last week or what?
Oops, we showed the wrong, or we put the wrong version.
Yeah, there was no blood here. Hey, he was just like, hey, catch you later.
Yeah. No, I mean I did the parental control setup, but I didn't get any other notice after this episode.
No, specifically, I guess a significant amount of people got a thing to say, hey, do you want to allow this kind of content?
Oh, it's probably because I already had set.
You had to at least have PG-13, I think, on this one, right? Or was it MA?
I think it was MA.
You put MA, right?
Maybe. Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I already had.
I think that it had to be PG-13 or above to allow you to watch this.
Oh, I already had my pin set.
Yeah.
From when they dropped the Daredevil and Defenders set.
Okay, yes, that was the first one.
That was the first one, but I already had it set. So if Moon Knight did something
after that,
if
anyone watched any of the Netflix stuff that dropped on Disney Plus, you also had to answer these questions.
I wasn't so much watching it. It was when they dropped it is when they introduced this.
Oh, okay.
So the first time I turned Disney Plus on after they put the Defenders series of stuff on Disney Plus is when it came up and prompted me. We have these new parental controls because of these new shows and everything like that. We need you to set up. What do you want your level to be? And I just put the whole thing. So every time I go,
you were like, "Fuck yeah!"
Yeah,
fuck yeah!
Bring it all. Bring it all.
Iron Man's iron dick to fucking Captain America right now.
The true ending of Civil War, the porn version.
Mm-hmm.
But so every time I go to Disney Plus now, app or phone app or the version at home, I have to put in a pin to watch anything.
Really?
Did you watch Fish Called Wanda, the real one now?
I haven't looked to see if there's anything that's been added onto it. I know there was a story that there were some R-rated movies that were put onto Disney Plus, but apparently they're even saying that was an accident, even for those who have the rating set for them to be there, and they have already taken them off. So
I think that Disney Plus just needs to have, it can't be Miramax, but can they have just a different app that is whatever they call it? Whatever they call it, it has this stuff on it, and it comes with Disney Plus. You don't have to charge extra for it. You just have a separate app for it. How many apps do you have that you pay for every month? 2 to 3?
6, I think.
Okay, great. Easily, I think most people have 2 to 3 apps they pay for. If Disney just gave a separate app where, how inconvenient is it for me to log out of this and go into that. Like everyone does this all the time.
Well, Disney owns the majority of Hulu,
Yeah. Just put it on Hulu. Great.
but they
Even
haven't.
better.
But they haven't done that yet
Yeah.
because they haven't come and said, "Oh, this is just us." So
Because they don't all own all of Hulu.
there we go. Disney Plus Plus or Disney X Plus.
Disney X Plus.
Disney X Plus. There we
Yeah.
go.
There you go.
But then,
But-
but if you name it Disney Plus X, everybody would think, oh, X-Men, because that's how people act around Disney and Marvel.
If Disney just bought out Hulu, again, you're talking about what was the last thing they bought they paid for was Fox,
Yeah.
which was $40 billion or some crazy shit like that. Like, how much does it cost to buy out the rest of Hulu?
Well,
And be able to put all your PG 13 or your R-rated and above, period.
it's because Hulu is supposed to still be. It's not that Disney tried to buy it out. It's that Comcast was involved. Comcast Universal was involved in Hulu, but they backed out because they started Peacock.
Okay.
Paramount had a bit of it into it, but they backed out.
And
Or
doing Paramount
CBS, whoever owns CBS now, whatever.
Well, they
yeah,
have Paramount
they
Plus
now
and
Paramount, they have Paramount Plus.
But I think
So Disney.
most CBS is going to Paramount Plus anyways now.
Well, that's what it is. CBS is Paramount Plus, but I'm just saying I don't know who owns and yeah.
They got, okay.
Yeah. But the thing is that it's not that Disney was buying into more shares to try to take over Hulu. It's just because of the nature of streaming and everybody wanting their own piece of it that Disney stuck with Hulu. So now they own a huge majority of the channel, of the app. It's just they're not doing the full potential of what they could with it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, you can have this.
They own a lot of stuff that is not necessarily Disney branded appropriate.
True.
And I understand that because Disney has a certain feeling on their brand.
This is also an American thing though, because if you have Disney Plus in other countries, you go through a VPN and everything like that, you have R-rated movies on Disney Plus because other countries don't have the hangups that we do.
Right. That's very true. That's very true.
Going back to the point we were talking about before, though, the identity of Mark Spector and Stephen Grant. So, your philosophy that Stephen Grant existed and the Mark Spector was created as a splintered off form.
No, mine's the opposite.
Oh, that Stephen always existed?
Mark Spector existed.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Mark Spector existed, and then because of Khonshu, this splintered off persona of Stephen Grant came into being, which was.
I think that it was because he wanted to protect his wife. I think that he was a piece of shit, but he still wanted to protect his wife.
The problems with that, not to say that couldn't be the case, but the problems with that are Khonshu's deal with Mark
Was
that
Stephen Grant?
Stephen wouldn't be coming around to interfere with him. Which
It was
means
also that Khonshu wouldn't fuck with Stephen Grant.
well, at the same time, which means that Stephen existed prior to Khonshu
Okay.
coming into him.
I still think that it's weird that it was his wife and she didn't know that there was a Stephen.
There was the other point that was made later in the episode that because of Khonshu's use, one persona was becoming stronger.
Okay.
Whichever one was out was gaining more power because
But she was also around when
Khonshu
that happened.
So
why was he Mark Spector before only?
because Stephen wasn't allowed to come out because of the
Stephen
deal,
was
and then when he left her,
No, it plays.
when
it
he
plays.
left her, he switched over.
You're
and
right. You're
I didn't
right.
realize, but
I still think it could go either way.
it could.
But I do think that you're.
I'm saying that the evidence that showed in this episode shows
Mm-hmm.
that Stephen did exist at some point prior to Khonshu coming into making Mark of the Avatar, but whether or not Stephen had much of a presence in his life
Right.
I don't know.
But it doesn't discount that he could have been like, hey, I'll do this for you, but I'm going to splinter my whatever, blah, 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 too.
True.
You know, like, you have to allow me to do these things.
Whether the series says or not.
We'll see. We're 2 episodes in. I think that that's what I like about this. Like, this is a thing that, you know, with, you know, old James Taylor, the Night Moon right over here, fucking, I know that's not the name of the guy that does the song. But I think that it's a possibility at this point. They've set a lot of things up, but we don't know where it's going to go for 4 more episodes.
Like the only good character in this series that's been established is Steven.
Agreed.
That's the only good character that's been established. Mark's not established as good.
Yeah, good as in I'm a good guy.
Yeah, as an
Yes.
actually a good good character.
But as in a good character,
Character,
the big
sorry.
two
No,
are
every-
Ethan
yeah,
Hawke.
yeah.
Again, we sucked Oscar Isaac's dick earlier, but Ethan Hawke as Arthur Harrow,
Just
pretty fucking great.
whispers most of that scene at the table,
Pretty
and
great.
is more menacing in doing that.
And he's got Nick Cage hair, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Which was a great trailer we saw before Morbius. It was probably better than the whole movie Morbius.
Oh, it was. It was.
Was the new Nick Cage movie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep.
Arthur Harrow, Ethan Hawke, Oscar Isaac, they're doing great. Not discounting, I'm not saying anyone's doing a bad job in this whole thing. I just don't necessarily know the names of the other people.
They're the stars, and they have to carry this. They're carrying the series, and they're carrying the series.
And they are. They are very well. They are very well. So we end up in Egypt.
Yeah.
We end up, I mean, that's the lead we've been burying for the last 20 minutes, is we end up in Egypt, which we got, this is the bare minimum of the other things we got in the trailers that we saw, is we did see some Moon Knight running through some more sandy terrain. Like that maybe.
What's apparent from the first 2 episodes is that the Moon Knight isn't in the episodes very much. How are you going to sell a series if you're only going to show things from the first 2 episodes? You're not really going to sell the Moon Knight character too well.
You have Ethan Hawke and you have Oscar Isaac. That's how you sell that.
I mean, fuck, I'd still watch the
and
show.
it has Disney, Marvel. Like really, like that's the amazing thing. Maybe that we live in right now is they can put both the name Disney and both the name Marvel on it. And look, we're doing a fucking show on it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it could be. Disney and Marvel present. I mean, what's the worst fucking
Squirrel
shit?
Girl.
I don't know if that's the word. Again,
I'm
I can't say.
Squirrel
but
Girl's
I
in my
know.
head. Just for
But
Squirrel
I'm
Girl.
saying,
Like,
yeah,
we're gonna sell a Squirrel Girl show.
Squirrel Girl is great to us, but like to most people, no one Jesse doesn't give a shit.
Squirrel Girl beat
Squirrel Girl
Thanos.
beat up Thanos.
By
Yeah.
herself.
The strongest one.
By herself and some
She
squirrels.
is the unbeatable Squirrel Girl.
Yep.
And
Is that
it's a
the
joke.
Rampage from,
It's a joke.
Suicide Squad?
That's not the same.
No, it's not the
It's
same.
not the same.
Command Control?
Because that's DC. But the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Yeah. Yes, you're right. You're right. It's a thing that most people aren't going to give a shit about. The same as this series. No motherfucker knew about Moon Knight.
No. That's an enemy for Superman.
Jesse.
From another dimension.
Jesse's the best thing because Jesse knows a shitload of nerds who just throw random bullshit that he don't give a fuck about at him all the time. And the things that stick, I feel like, is most representative of most people, okay? Like the average amount of people. So, did you have any idea of Moon Knight before this? Jesse said no. I had nothing on Moon Knight. Zero. Had you ever seen a picture that looked like this motherfucker right here?
No. I
Never.
around today and watched
Never.
drawings.
Never. The closest was Ant-Man 2, that fucking ghost bitch in Ant-Man 2. That was the closest because it looks like that.
Yeah.
With a cape. Looks like it.
But like they're saying though that so you have the show, the nerds know who Moon Knight is. Like I know who Moon Knight is, just because I've never read it. I still know who the character is and who he looked like and everything like that. But how are you going to sell a show if all you're going to show are bits from the first episodes? Well, you got to throw some other Moon Knight action in.
Mm-hmm.
So
Are they all Middle Eastern? What's the next one? That girl's India, right?
Who? Yes.
yeah, Marvel,
Pakistani.
yeah, Miss Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel. I mean, Egyptian. Yeah, cool. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, we're in Egypt now, and we're going to spend probably the rest of the series in Egypt.
Yeah, it's fine.
So.
It's very interesting that it's white and what is Oscar Isaac?
Guatemalan, Cuban.
Venezuelan.
Guatemalan, and Cuban. Father's Cuban, mother's
Yep.
Guatemalan.
Watermelon. We got canceled just now. Anyways, let us move on. James Kopp, do you have anything to say? God, you're being really quiet tonight.
Yeah, he's just staring at us with those spooky moon eyes.
Listen, before we get into what our rating
Thoughts?
is
Okay.
on all of this, we got to do a meme dump,
do.
ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the meme dump of the week. This is when we jizz all over the chat that is for these shows, and Jesse comes up with gems out of that. Like
Yeah,
that's
we toss things to him, and he puts
in our
together for
DNA.
us. So.
I'm just trying to give Jesse our
no.
DNA to make.
Oh, that's what I said. We
Amazing
throw
things.
things at him. He puts together amazing things. Unfortunately, I mean, we apologize now. There's not a whole lot for this week.
No,
but-
because
Yep.
there it is. One Punch Man.
That was-
Because we do get.
Connect with that fucking thing.
But again, I like the subtlety. I like a lot of the things. If they make it pay off later, like listen, I'm easy. That's all it is. I'm easy. There it is.
Yep.
Take that. What the five fingers say to face?
Well, they have that with Will Smith cut it on that one now.
We're going next level, baby.
Yep.
Here it is.
It's your ultimate good versus evil.
There it is.
Mr. Knight versus Bully McGuire.
Night.
The wonderful lion talking to himself. Yep.
Yep.
All that handsome
There it is.
Oscar Isaac for you there.
There it is. Ivan Ooze himself. Such a waste. Such a waste.
Yep.
There it is. Are you okay? Layla, are you okay? Are you okay, Layla?
It's not many pictures of this for some reason.
Why? I don't know why he looks like the mask right now. He looks like the mask.
The lighting just makes him
Doesn't make it look purpley 'cause it's
He looks like the mask. I love it.
we got one more.
That's me.
No, we got one more.
Oh, we got one
We
more.
got the one more.
This is a video. We're gonna be quiet.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Where is the scarab? Where is the scarab? Where is the scarab? No. Where's the scarab?
I have it.
Give me the bat, Marge. Give me the bat. Give me the bat. Come on. Give me the bat. Give me the bat.
Wait, Azra, give me the key. Give me the key. Is he gonna be alright?
He's got a license, Lisa. Because he's drunk and he's 16. That's how it worked in the 80s. You could do that in movies.
So in case you ever wonder what we're thinking of when we're watching these shows, it's referencing all the things we've seen in
Everything.
pop culture ever.
Everything.
Yep.
It's great. It's great.
Everything's
It's
stolen
great.
from everything. That's how it is.
There it is.
So.
Thank you, Jesse, for our meme dump.
Yep.
Make sure you check out our TikTok. I'm going to make Jesse send me some shit so we can throw that on our TikTok. Ladies and gentlemen,
back up.
let's move on to our review
Rating system.
rating. All right.
We've
These are the phases of the
Kopp
moon.
is always too close to me. It's a creepy thing.
Don't stand so. Don't stand so. Don't stand so.
We finally perfected what we talked about last week and actually put the moon phases up as our rating system. So We're 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
Starting with a new moon all the way up to a
You
full
can argue
moon.
in the comments about what it looks like. We don't care. We don't care.
Yeah.
Do it. It's great for engagement. Please argue about it. With yourself if you want to.
Yeah.
You can
start
argue
posting.
with Steve and Mark and Khonshu all you like.
Yep. Just post those comments out there and then
Mm-hmm.
log into another account and post comments from there too. So,
Definitely.
well, I'll start. I'm giving
Wait.
it.
I
What?
don't think you should start. Let's James
Oh,
start.
James, because we got James told us his rating
James told us his rating.
before we came into this, and I mean, we talked about how great this episode is. We nitpicked a couple things, but James from Nolans Witten told us we'll let him speak for himself for the most part, but he gave it a quarter moon.
You gave it a quarter moon. That's a 1 out of 5, ladies
That's a
and
1
gentlemen.
out of 5. And it all came down to that all mention of the veganism. That when he found out that Arthur Harlow was also vegan, he was like, nope, that's too much for me.
Nope, too much.
No sex
Too
treatment in
much.
this episode. Yeah, it's just
Too
nothing
much.
to redeem for
He
him.
was like, I wanted them to gorge on a sexy pig in this episode and be like, fuck veganism.
Yeah.
Like he wanted to see, like he likes when genres are stood on their head.
we
You know what I mean?
we don't speak for him. We just relay what he tells us.
All we do, he
and
puts it in the chat, we put it out to you guys.
Yep.
That's how it is.
Yep.
That's how it works.
You can talk to him about it next week when he comes back. But yeah.
When he comes back, you
Cool.
can make him explain it more in depth.
Cool.
But until then, we can only give you a quarter moon, which is a 1 out of 5.
Yeah. So sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, now.
Down to the real ones? Down to the real ones?
to
Okay.
you. How do you
Now to
feel
me.
about this episode?
I've given it a 3/4. Not quite perfect, but
3/4, 4 out of 5?
4 out of 5.
4 out
Yep,
of 5.
4 out of 5. There we go.
Look
and
at
yes,
that.
and yes, they are different.
Bloop, 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 bloop.
According to Jesse, they are different. They are
Ah!
slightly different.
Dude, I cut them out. I was going crazy. They are different, but it fucks with my brain.
Yeah,
No.
These are phases of
Lies. Lies.
Minuscule differences between them.
That looks like my pubic hair on both 3 and 4.
Oh my god.
No, this episode was great. And if we're gonna go back retroactively, I'll bump the previous episode up to a 3/4 as well because I gave it a half moon. Half moon.
Which is
waning.
3?
Which was a 3. Half moon waning, but because I said it needed this
That's
episode.
a 3. That's
Yes.
a 3, ladies and gentlemen.
Because I said it needed this episode. And
I agree. I think that it's so interesting to see how these companies who have a ridiculous amount of money to spend on these things. Okay, let's go into just perspective. I think we hold most of these series up to movie standards so often that we have to go back and say, television episodes never had this amount of money spent on them until Game of Thrones.
yeah.
Game of Thrones was really the, changing it. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that
there's-
great.
but-
Hopefully Marvel lands that plane better.
But even with Game of
you
Thrones,
know,
there are still budget limitations.
Yes,
which
there was.
showed
This
through.
is, and they are treating most of these series as a whole, but they are not releasing it that way. And I don't know if they have completely, squared that circle on a lot of these things. That being said, I think this might be my first 5.
That's fine.
This is going to be my first 5. This
Full
is a
moon?
full moon. This is. I still don't think that's a full moon, but I think this is the full moon of this series for me because this really laid out so many things that maybe I'm reading a lot into it, but I mean, for me, I have been a Buffy person. I have spent so much time on Smallville, and for less, I have spent seasons upon seasons on shows for less. Supergirl, I've done these things, and for me, episode 2, like they have introduced so many very, very much potential, very much having the potential to be large ideas within the Marvel Universe. And I don't want to discount those, even if only a fraction of them end up being something that was not just me giving it to them, you know, inside my head.
This was a fantastic episode, but the reason I give it a 3/4 instead of a full was only because this episode is still dependent on the first episode existing.
Sure, but what episode of a television series that didn't come out since the 80s isn't dependent upon the last one?
I'm not saying it's not, but as a whole between the two of them, yeah, it's probably a full moon between the two, but the two of them together. Individually, because each one relies on the other for a lot of filling in. Like the first episode does a lot of heavy lifting for the second episode, for the second episode to shine.
Sure. And that's why I'm going to give them 2 different ones, because whatever the fuck I gave it last time, which maybe it was a 4 or a 3.5 or a 3, or I don't know, that may have been 1,000 years ago. But this week, this bitch is a 5 based on what we've seen so far, in my opinion. Great.
At least we agree
There you
that James Kopp's an idiot and
Where's that
Can't get
baby?
ready
Where's
for
that
shit.
baby oil? We're gonna wrestle about these 5 things we've argued about this whole episode.
So, I mean, now we're to a point where there's no previews really for what might be coming around. So, what do you think is going to come up?
I mean, I think that the long-term thing is who is the original persona, and I still have a feeling, I'm going to throw it out right here at episode 2, that they kill this fucking character at the end of this thing. And they make her the new Moon Knight. That's what I'm going to say.
I agree that we are going to find out who the original avatar for Amit was. I don't have a guess yet, because I don't know if they're going to try to introduce another new Marvel character.
Ooh, guest star?
Or take somebody that logically already has existed somehow in the Marvel universe.
Well, we should also talk about this, just a little sidebar, is the Panther god from Black Panther exists within this Egyptian mythos.
Yes.
Okay, it's a kind of like different version of that Panther god. It's a tiger god, I think, in the Egyptian universe, but it happens to share the name with the Panther god. So who knows?
I mean, yeah, it may have that connection there.
And also, I think one more thing we got to talk about is there is a theory that Blade showing up at the end of Eternals, talking to the Black Knight.
Hold on, who?
Blade
That was the voice.
shows up as the voice
When Dean opens the box with the sword.
to, yes, Game of Thrones, Jon Snow,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of Eternals, may be doing an Avengers thing that is going to end up being the Marvel's
Black Suns.
Black Suns, right?
We say
Midnight Suns. What's that?
That was from Saul Ali at the end of that movie?
Yeah, that was his voice.
Yeah, it
Was
was.
that Samuel Jackson?
No, it wasn't.
Jackson.
You
It
sure
was
about that?
the director.
Absolutely sure.
The director came out and specifically said it was him.
Confirmed. Yep.
That's cool as
Yeah.
shit.
So it is surmised. Again, I've talked about this at least on this show, if not get nerdy, that I think that they are laying out total different things, and I think that's okay. You can have these back alley magic shit that the general public knows nothing about, but you have these immensely powerful fucking characters who are handling this shit and keeping it out of that. And then you can have your flashy fucking Avengers, and then you can have your space fucking Avengers who don't do shit. And then after 8 or more so years, you have them have to all work together in this larger thing, because you have to one up what you already did. Like, that's just how it works. You have to one-up that. You have to one-up what was Infinity War and Endgame. And how do you do that? You lay tracks for not only all these individual storylines, but these individual team storylines that now have to team up.
Well, what they've proved with Loki was that you have to watch these series.
But so far, you have not had to watch shit
No.
to watch these 2 episodes.
No, because this is so far standalone, which means something is going to happen at the end of this that is going to set something up, which probably will be, as you said, and I've heard that theory too, that a Midnight Suns type series or series of shows is going to happen to allow for those types of characters to exist.
Give me the mystical little sidebar, especially with, like, who's a fan favorite? Juan. Or is it Juan from Wong?
Wong, yeah.
Wong's a huge fan favorite. He happens to be the
Sorcerer Supreme?
the Sorcerer Supreme right now.
Yeah.
But he's not getting his own movie.
No.
But if he's in Midnight Suns, if it might not even be Blade, but if he shows up at the end of this and says, "Hey, like, we need you to fucking do whatever."
He's the one gathering everybody. So showing the end scene from Shang-Chi is this is what Wong's actually
or
doing.
it's him and Blade. Like, I don't think you need to marry yourself to one or the other. Marvel can play this game of who's trending more and how do we add more? You know, like, why not? Oh, it's all these people. Fuck it, yeah. Why not? Oh, you like all 3 of them equally? Great. You know.
Well, I mean, Secret Invasion's been in development for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know much about it yet.
Right.
There might be a trailer dropping. Who knows at what point?
Who knows? I mean, who knows? They haven't even dropped a Thor: Love and Thunder trailer, and it comes out in July.
I'm expecting that with Strange. It's been
When did they drop the first Multiverse of Madness trailer, Jesse?
a month. It was No Way Home.
Was it No Way Home, which
was
was in December?
That was the literal first one. Yeah. No, they've been doing that of late.
It's been 4 months, and that movie comes out 2 months before Love and Thunder. They're way behind on dropping.
Well, I thought Love and Thunder got pushed back.
It's July. Love and Thunder comes out in July. Pretty sure. 2022.
It's right there. Oh, it is
July 8th.
Okay.
It's 2 months, and it's been 4 months.
Oh.
And we've got a few trailers.
It's going to be in this.
It's going to be at E3 that's not happening. Morbius is going to be in it. Why is Morbius the top searcher?
April Fool's Day?
People,
It
yes.
did yes.
Bunch of swans.
Because we are all
bunch of
fools for buying tickets to that. Anyways,
For believing.
um,
One bit of other news before we sign off. That was announced this week because we're talking about the more grittier. Miss Marvel is going to be the first series that receives a TV PG rating.
oh, really?
Yep. They're going the grittier with this whole Moon Knight stuff, wherever they're going with that. But they are still keeping it friendlier towards the younger audience, especially the preteen audience.
But see, that's so much, again, that leads to, I'm going to give you a few different, like, they can do Young Avengers, which I don't think they're going to call Young Avengers. I think that's just going to be the new Avengers. I think you're going to have Avengers. I think you're going to have mystical fucking Midnight Suns, whatever the fuck they end up calling them. And I think you're going to have, I think Spider-Man is going to, Spider-They. Yes. But I think you're also going to have your bad guy ones. You're going to have your Thunderbolts, Dark Avengers, but they're going to be no one's going to be called those things that they are in the comics.
No.
They're going to be,
Well,
what? What do you think they hold?
I was going to say they might be called Thunderbolts, but they're not. If that was going to be the intention, it's not going to be the intention
It
anymore.
would have been the intention before
he died. Before William Hurt died.
Yes,
It's
that's
like,
not going to happen.
Wait a minute, that's not. Yeah.
Sorry to be callous
Because
about
we're also not going to get. We're
but-
not. If you're waiting for Red Hulk, it's not happening.
No. And if it does, it's going to be recast, and it might be awkward.
Yeah.
Who could do that? Let's do a quick fan casting.
Or it's going to
Who does
be
Who takes over with
Andy Serkis.
no, because he's
No.
already
He's
been
already
there.
been- that's right, he's
I
already been
think Breaking Bad. What's his name?
Shit. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Breaking Bad. What's his name? Why can't I think of it?
Yes, Bryan
Yes,
Cranston.
Bryan
Thank you.
Cranston.
Thank you, Josie.
I think Bryan Cranston does.
Yeah,
Could take over
that'd
that
be
role.
fine.
I think he could take over that role, and everyone would be happy with it, and he could do it in a reverent way that people would like.
Or they just never have Red Hulk and never have Ross again and introduce somebody else
Until later, until they reboot the whole thing. Okay. All right, listen, guys. We want to thank you for being here. We want to make sure that you remember to like and subscribe to Canoodle Studios on all your favorite social medias. Keep an eye out on TikTok. I'm going to have Jesse send us over that meme dump so we can dump that on our TikTok. And we will be back next week with both this Working on the Night Moon with myself, Smokin' Phat J,
Matt Christy.
and we will have James Kopp in the flesh, so to say, coming back, as well as Matt Christy joining me for the next couple weeks on Getting Nerdy Show. Until then, I'll see you later.
Take care.